Okay guys, on this short video we're going to explain 2.6 WSB3. This is the third worksheet on absolute values. We had our notes, we had our practice, and this is the third worksheet. And on this one we're going to be writing the absolute value equation given the graph. And we're also going to state the vertex and also state the domain and range. So let's take a look at number one. And again, you know what? Let's look at the instructions. It says number one, state the absolute value function, and it even gives you the form y equals a. Now remember the a, we kind of pretend that it's like the slope, only in this type of function, absolute value functions, not in parabolas, not in any other type of graph. But on this one, a is kind of like the slope from the vertex. You rise and run according to this a value. Now the vertex is the most important point, which is the value of h and the value of k. And it's very important that whenever we look at h, we think opposite because of that minus sign. And the k value, just take it for what it is, okay? So let's look at number one, and let's check out and see if we could identify the a, the h, and the k, all right? Well, obviously the vertex is h and k, okay? So the vertex is h and k. So right here on this yellow dot, that is the vertex, and the vertex is 0, 0. So your h value is 0, your k value is 0. So if we were to write this out, we would have y equals, and it might be a good idea to zoom in a little, the a value, obviously it's not going up. So if it's not going up and it's going down, that means that a value is negative, all right? So the question is, how does it go down and over? It only goes down 1 over 1. Down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. Or if you went the other way, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So you're going down 1, which is a negative 1 over 1. And then you have the absolute values with the x inside. So let's write that. We have the absolute values with the x inside. And we have a minus h. So I'm just going to write the minus, okay? The h value is 0, and the k value is 0. So we have a 0 right there and a plus 0 over here. Okay, so this is the correct absolute value equation. However, we could write it a lot nicer. It would be to simplify it by just writing it as y equals negative absolute value of x, close absolute value, and that's it. There's your absolute value equation, the function that represents that graph. Now, in addition to that, of course, you want to state the vertex. We already did state that the vertex was 0, 0. Okay. In addition to that, you also want to state the domain and range. And we should know that the domain on any absolute value function is always x equals all real numbers. Right? The domain is always x equals all real numbers on any absolute value function. Now, the range, those are the y values. We know that y goes up and down. This is clearly the vertex, the maximum value. So it's at the y value of 0 and below. At the y value of 0 and below. So how do we say y at 0 and below? That's going to be less than or equal to 0. And those are all the things that the instructions say. The first thing, write your absolute value equation. The second thing, state the vertex and state the domain and range. So we did number one. Let's jump to number 3, okay? I'm just going to do a couple, and then you guys are going to have class to do the rest of them. All right, so number 3, by the way, the solutions are posted on Google Classroom, so please, as you're doing these, please check your answers on Google Classroom. The last thing you want to do is practice something the wrong way and learn it the wrong way, okay? So let's begin by doing the correct y equals a, but you know what? Instead of a, I'm going to leave a blank spot. Open absolute value, x minus h, but I'm going to leave a blank spot, plus k, but I'm going to leave a blank spot, okay? So what we want to do is identify the a value, identify the h and k. So let's begin by going to the vertex. What is the vertex? The vertex is right here, that coordinate, which is from the origin 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that is the coordinate 3 on the x, negative 3 on the y. Now remember, the x value of your vertex is your h, the k value of your vertex, or the y value of your vertex is your k. So what we really have here is 3 for x and negative 3 for y, which is 3 for h and negative 3 for k. Now let's look at the a value. How much do you rise and how much do you run to get from one point to the other? Doesn't matter which direction you're going. You're rising 1, you're running 2. So the a value is rise 1, run 2. Ladies and gentlemen, there is your answer. The only other thing you could do to make it a little nicer is to just, instead of plus negative, you could just write it as a minus 3. I mean, you could leave plus negative 3, but especially on the quiz on Friday, if you're typing it in, I would rather you just write a minus 3. So let me actually white this out. Let me make this closer over here. I would just rather you write it as minus 3 instead of a plus negative 3. So there's the correct graph, or the correct equation. Now let's state the vertex. The vertex is, we said, 3 comma negative 3. Let's also state the domain. You're going to say x equals all real numbers, and the range are your y values. Y is clearly at this minimum value and above, right? Y is at the minimum value at the vertex and above, right? So that y value is negative 3. So how do we say y is at negative 3 or above? You say y is greater than or equal to negative 3. Okay. So pretty easy stuff. It does get easier as you continue to work. Let me do number 5. Number 5. Again, we should know that it's y equals a, but we're going to leave a blank spot instead of a. We're just going to leave a blank spot. Absolute value of x minus h, I'm going to leave a blank spot, plus k, I'm going to leave a blank spot. Okay? Now, let's identify the vertex. The vertex is going to be h right here, k right there, and it comes from this coordinate right there. So what is that coordinate? That coordinate is negative 1 on the x and positive 1 on the y. So negative 1 is the h value, and you know what, let me write it in red. Sorry about that. Negative 1 is the h value, and positive 1 is the k value. So I recommend writing it with blank spots the way I did, and just directly plug that in right there, plug that in right there, and then the minus minus will change to plus plus. All right, so what about the a value? How much do you go up and over? You don't go up and over, you're going down, which means negative. And you're looking for the nice clean point, and obviously I really emphasize that point. So you're going down 1, 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the a value is down 2 over 5. That's a negative 2/5. So that's your equation, but to make it as nice as possible, we're going to rewrite it as y equals negative 2/5 absolute value x plus 1, close absolute value, plus 1. How about the domain? Actually, let's write the vertex. The vertex was negative 1 comma 1 is negative 1 comma 1. And the domain, again, like always, x equals all real numbers. The range, y is clearly below at the y value of 1. That's the maximum height at the y value of 1. And this is clearly below. So y is less than or equal to 1. Let's try number 7 over here. So once again, we should all have this memorized. We should have that memorized right there. Y equals a, parentheses, not parentheses, absolute value, x minus h, close absolute value, plus k. The vertex is h and k, and the a value is kind of like the slope, all right? So if we identify the h and k value, which is the vertex, which in this case is the coordinate 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 4 is the vertex, 1, comma 4. As a matter of fact, they want us to state that, so you could put the vertex is 1, comma 4. Cool. All right, and again, what I would do is I would rewrite it as y equals blank spot, open absolute value, x minus blank spot, plus k, the blank spot. So what is the h value? H is the x value of the vertex. So 1 goes right there where the h is at, so 1's going to be right there. The k value is 4. It's going to be plugged in right there. And the a value depends on whether you rise and run or drop and run. In this case, you're dropping 1, 2, so that's a -2 rise, and run 1, so -2 over 1. So you could put -2 over 1, or you could just put a -2, because we know over 1 is really not necessary. So ladies and gentlemen, this right here is your absolute value function. Y equals -2, open absolute value, x minus 1, close absolute value, plus 4 at the end. Let's now state our domain. Our domain is x equals all real numbers, and our range, y, is clearly at the y value of 4. I mean, even if you look at the vertex itself, the y value is 4. So that's your highest y value. Since we're talking about range, we're talking about our y values. Highest y value of 4 and below. So we say y is less than or equal to 4. Let's go to number 9. Number 9. So we have y equals a, absolute value, x minus h, close absolute value, plus k. Notice I'm writing them with blank spots. The vertex itself is the coordinate -2, -3. All right, so we could write that. -2, -3 is the vertex. As a matter of fact, you could write it up here because we do want to state it. -2, -3 is a vertex. And of course, the h value is the x value of the vertex, which gets plugged right in here. So you're going to plug in a -2. And the k value of -3 gets plugged in over here, -3. And the a value is kind of like the slope from the vertex. How much do you rise and how much do you run? It's obviously up 1 over 1, 2, 3. So up 1 over 3, that is the fraction up 1 over 3. Now the only thing we could do to make this look a little nicer is to change the minus minus to plus plus. And instead of a plus minus, let's just put a minus, right? So here's our final equation. Y equals 1/3 absolute value x plus 2 close absolute value minus 3, where your domain is x equals all real numbers, and your range is y is clearly the y value -3. It's at -3 and above, so y is greater than or equal to -3. I know that there's not much space here. You're going to have to write pretty small. You do want to state your function. You want to state your domain, your range, and the vertex as well. Okay. Let's go to this one over here. Let's start by stating the vertex. That vertex is from the origin, -1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's -3, -3. -3, -3. You could even write it up here. The vertex is -3, -3. And let's write our absolute value function. Y equals a, blank spot, open absolute value, x minus blank spot, plus k. I'm going to leave a blank spot. So all I'm going to do is take this and plug it in right here. That's my h value. It goes right in there. I'm going to take my k value and plug it right there, which is -3. And then I look at how much I rise and how much I run. In this case, how much I drop. So it's a -1 over 1. Doesn't matter if we go -1 or over 1 this way, but bottom line is if you go up, it's positive. If you go down, it's negative. Down 1 over 1 is -1 over 1. So you could put -1 over 1 right here. Now there is a couple of things we could do to clean this up. You could change the minus minus to plus plus. You could even change this -1 over 1 to just a negative sign. So you could say y equals just the negative sign, absolute value, x plus 3. Oh yeah, the plus minus, that's kind of pointless. You could just write -3. It looks nicer. And this is your absolute value function represented below on that graph. Now we're going to state the domain. The domain are x equals all real numbers. The range, we're talking about the y values. So clearly it has a y value of -3 and below. So y value of -3 and below is less than or equal to -3. So instead of continuing, I did almost all the odd ones. I'm just going to leave it right here, and I'm going to let you guys Get to work. That's right. You guys could finish this up. I really, really want you to check the answers that I have posted on Google Classroom. And you know what? I did it kind of fast. I posted it quickly. I hope I didn't make a mistake. If you do find a mistake, please let me know. I truly appreciate it. All right, guys. Good luck on this worksheet. It will be all over Friday's quiz.